I stepped through the front door of my childhood home expecting the familiar, the hallway, the frames, my mother's face catching the afternoon light. Instead, I stopped so suddenly my bag slipped from my shoulder and hit the floor. Every photo was gone. Not moved. Not covered. Gone. The portrait of my mother in the backyard with dirt on her hands. The Christmas picture where she was laughing too hard to hold the tray of cookies. The wedding portrait that had hung at the end of the hall for as long as I could remember. All of it vanished. In their place were large photographs of Brenda. My stepmother. Brenda in a silver dress, chin lifted like a magazine cover. Brenda in the sunroom, smiling like she had built the house herself. Brenda leaning against the staircase in a white outfit so bright it hurt to look at. It didn't feel like my home. It felt like someone had broken in, erased my family, and left a stranger to admire herself from every wall. The hallway looked polished. Expensive. Cold. And somehow that made it worse, because this hadn't been done in anger. It had been done carefully. Deliberately. Like someone had taken their time deciding exactly which parts of our life no longer deserved to be seen. Brenda appeared at the far end of the hallway, glass of sparkling water in one hand, phone in the other. She wasn't surprised to see me. The smile spreading across her face told me she had been waiting for this exact moment. "Well," she said, glancing around proudly. "Much better, isn't it?" She walked toward me slowly, her heels tapping with that calm, irritating confidence she used whenever she wanted to make someone feel small. "The house finally feels alive," she said. Those old pictures were dragging everything down. Old pictures. That was how she said it. Like my mother's life could be packed into two careless words and dismissed between sips of mineral water. "Where are they?" I asked. "Stored away," she shrugged. "I'm making space for a fresh start." Her tone was light but her eyes weren't. Something hard. Something satisfied. Honestly, the whole place felt like a memorial. It was depressing. Something inside me tightened. I had spent months being civil with her. Quiet. Measured. But standing there, hearing her talk about my mother like she was some bad decorating phase, I realized Brenda had never wanted peace. She wanted control. Not just over the house, over the story inside it. She moved closer and lowered her voice. "David deserves to stop living in the past. And so do you. David. Not my father. David." She did that whenever she wanted to remind me of the new order of things. She expected me to yell. To cry. To give her the scene she clearly wanted. I didn't. Her smile shifted, just slightly. Because Brenda didn't look like a woman redecorating. She looked like a woman planting a flag. And people only do that when they think the land is already theirs. I found my father in his study, staring at a laptop screen like it had given him somewhere to hide. "Where are Mom's photos?" I asked. He rubbed his mouth and leaned back. "Brenda's making some changes." Some changes. She took down every picture in the hallway. He sighed, long and tired, like I was the one making the day harder. "She's trying to make the house feel more shared." "By erasing Mom?" That made him glance up. Only for a second. "Don't say it like that." "Then how should I say it?" He stood, walked to the bookshelf, then back to the desk, that restless movement he always made when he wanted a conversation to end without ending it. "She's my wife. You need to respect that." Something cold settled in my chest. Not because of Brenda. Because of him. This was the same man who used to spend whole Saturdays helping my mother hang frames exactly where she wanted them. The same man who once said memories mattered because they reminded people who they were. And now he couldn't defend those memories when someone threw them aside. "Did you at least ask her not to do it?" He looked away. That was my answer. Please don't make this worse than it already is, he muttered, brushing past me through the doorway. I watched him leave. And quietly, and not dramatically, something changed in me. Like a door closing somewhere deep inside. Because Brenda was cruel, yes. But my father was something harder to forgive. He was present. And still absent. And for the first time, I stopped expecting him to do the right thing. I didn't have to look far. Something about the way Brenda said stored away told me exactly where to go. The garage. The air hit me the moment I opened the door, cold, damp, carrying that stale smell of dust and metal. The lights flickered before settling. And there they were. Not stacked neatly. Not protected. Thrown. Frames leaned against each other at awkward angles, some buried behind boxes, others lying flat on concrete like they had simply been dropped and forgotten. A thin layer of dust already settling over the glass. I reached down and pulled out the wedding portrait. My mother's face looked back at me, soft and steady, even through the film of dirt clouding the glass. The corner of the frame was chipped. Not badly. But enough to tell me it hadn't been handled gently. I lowered myself onto the concrete floor, still holding the frame. Somewhere between the hallway and this room, something inside me had shifted. This wasn't about hurt anymore. It was about understanding. And for the first time, I started to wonder what else in this house had been ignored, overlooked, or hidden long before Brenda ever arrived. It happened by accident. Or at least it felt like it. As I turned the frame over to check the damage, my fingers brushed against something uneven along the back panel. Not wood. Not tape exactly. Something firmer. I ran my hand over it again. There was something there. I slid my fingernail along the edge of the backing until I found a thin strip of tape holding something flat. I peeled it back slowly. A small envelope slipped into my hand. Old. Slightly yellowed. No writing on the front. It didn't feel like a letter. It felt intentional. Like it had been placed there for a reason. I glanced toward the door, half expecting to hear Brenda's footsteps, but the house stayed quiet. Too quiet. I didn't open it. Not yet. Something told me this wasn't the kind of thing you rushed through in a dusty garage with cold air pressing in around you. I slipped it into my jacket pocket instead. Upstairs, a door closed. Brenda's voice carried faintly, light and careless, like nothing important had happened. She thought she had cleared the past. But the past doesn't disappear that easily. Sometimes it just waits. And sometimes, it leaves something behind. By the end of the week, Brenda had moved on to the rest of the house like she was working through a checklist only she could see. The sunroom went first. It had always been my mother's favorite place, soft yellow walls, light curtains that moved with the breeze, shelves filled with plants she somehow kept alive year-round. Now it was gray. Cold, flat gray. The plants were gone. The shelves were empty. In their place, a glass desk, a ring light, and a camera set up facing the window. Brenda stood adjusting her phone when I walked in. She didn't stop recording. This space needed purpose, she said, speaking partly to me and partly to the camera. Natural light like this shouldn't be wasted on hobbies. She finally lowered the phone and looked at me. You'll get used to it. Behind her, the walls looked empty in a way that had nothing to do with decoration. It was like something had been removed that couldn't be replaced. People hold on to things too long, she continued. It keeps them stuck. She paused at the doorway. I'm just helping this house move forward. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to stop her. Because the more she changed, the closer she was getting to something she didn't even know existed. The first time she did it in front of other people, I understood exactly who Brenda really was. A Friday dinner. A few guests. Brenda at the center of the table, swirling her drink. These walls used to feel so heavy, she was saying. Like the house couldn't breathe. Her friends nodded. Agreeable people who followed whatever tone was set in the room. You should have seen it before, she continued. Photos everywhere. Every surface covered. It felt like living inside someone else's memory. She leaned back, glancing toward the hallway. You can't move forward if you're surrounded by ghosts. That word hung in the air. Ghosts. My father shifted in his chair but said nothing. Brenda turned to me, smiling like she was inviting me into the joke. Don't you think it's better now? The table went quiet. Watching. Waiting. I met her eyes and held them. Then I took a slow sip of water and set the glass down. Energy matters, I said calmly. Especially when people don't understand what they're changing. Something flickered across her face. Then she smiled again. But it wasn't the same. The office building was older than I expected. Quiet. Almost forgotten. Mr. Henderson had known my mother's family long before I was born. He didn't ask unnecessary questions when I sat down across from him. I placed the envelope on his desk. He rested his hand on it for a moment, like he was recognizing something familiar through the paper itself. Then he opened it. The room stayed quiet except for the soft sound of paper unfolding. His eyes moved carefully across each page. Once. Then again. He leaned back. A small smile appeared, not amused, not surprised. Knowing. Did she change anything else in the house? He asked. I thought about the hallway. The sunroom. The empty spaces. Yes, I said. His fingers tapped the desk. That makes this simpler. What does it mean? I leaned forward. He closed the folder and slid the envelope back toward me. It means that whoever made those changes may have done more than they intended. He paused. If you want to proceed, we'll need a little time. I nodded. Because for the first time since walking into that hallway, something felt steady. Not the house. Not my father. Something older than any of this. Something that had been there long before, and was still there now. Brenda was waiting when I got back. In the kitchen. Leaning against the counter like she'd planned every word. The guest room isn't working, she said. It's too small for what I need. She held out a small stack of papers. Apartment listings. I think it's time you started figuring things out on your own. You've been here long enough. My father stood in the doorway. Watching. Not speaking. Waiting for it to pass like everything else. How long? I asked. 30 days. 30 days to leave the house I had grown up in. I took the papers from her hand, not because I needed them, but because she expected me to. Fair enough, I said. She blinked. My father said nothing. I folded the papers and set them back on the counter. 30 days is a long time, I said calmly. Her smile returned. Confident. Certain. Because she thought she had already won. And for the first time, I let her believe it. 2 days later, Brenda announced she was hosting a party. A reintroduction, she called it. People need to see what this place has become. She had a projector installed in the foyer. A slideshow, before and after. Except the before was edited. Carefully selected angles to make the house look darker, colder, smaller than it ever was. And the after was entirely hers. Her design. Her choices. Her version of the story. The day of the party, the house was unrecognizable. Every surface polished. Every detail controlled. Guests arrived and moved through the rooms like an audience through an exhibition. She really transformed it, someone said near the foyer. Completely different house, another agreed. Brenda moved through the crowd like she had rehearsed every step. Every smile landed exactly where it needed to. My father stood near the window, holding a drink he hadn't touched. He met my eyes once. Then looked away. No signal. No question. Just absence. Brenda eventually moved to the center of the room, microphone in hand. Thank you all for coming. This house has been through a lot. Light laughter moved through the room. Sometimes you have to clear space for something better. Something new. Her eyes flicked toward me, just long enough for the room to notice. And I think we've done that. Applause followed. That was when I stepped forward. I didn't rush. Didn't interrupt. I just moved. And the room shifted before anyone said a word. Is there something you'd like to add? Brenda asked lightly. Yes, I said. Simple. Enough to change the direction of the room. This house has changed, I continued. Her smile returned quickly, exactly. I nodded. But not in the way you think. Real quiet now. I reached into the folder I had been holding at my side, not quickly, not slowly, just enough for everyone to see it. There's something about this house that you missed. She laughed. If this is some kind of joke. It's not. I held out the document. She didn't take it immediately. Then she did. Her fingers tightened. She read the first line. Then the next. The color in her face began to fade. What is this? Her voice had dropped, no longer confident. Uncertain. My father moved closer. Slowly. Like he already knew. It means, I said quietly, that the house you've been changing was never yours to control. Real silence. The kind that doesn't break easily. Brenda looked at my father. This doesn't make sense. David? He didn't answer. He just stared at the document. And that silence said everything. Before anyone could speak, the front door opened. 2 men stepped inside. Not guests. Their presence shifted the air instantly. Brenda turned to them. This is a private event. They didn't look at her. One of them looked at me and nodded. That was all. But it was enough. Because everything Brenda had built in that house wasn't just being questioned anymore. It was being taken back. The house was quiet again by midnight. Settled. Like something that had been out of place had finally been returned. Brenda's voice had been sharp, breaking, trying to hold on to something already gone. Now there was nothing left of that. The guests had left quickly. My father had gone with her, no argument, no attempt to fix it. Just followed. For the first time, I didn't stop him. Some choices don't need to be explained. They just need to be lived with. I stood alone in the hallway for a long time. Then I went to the garage. One by one, I carried the frames back inside. Carefully. Not rushed. Each one placed exactly where it had been before. The hallway began to change again, not into something new, but into something true. My mother's face returned to the walls. Not as a memory that needed protecting, but as something that had never really left. I stood in front of her wedding portrait once it was back in place. The same soft smile. The same steady presence. Unchanged. Some things don't disappear just because someone decides they shouldn't be there. And some things don't belong to the people who try to take them. They belong to the ones who understand their value. I took a step back, letting the space settle around me. And for the first time in weeks, the house felt like it belonged to itself again.